What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. This is GameStorm Gaming in Lamont, Illinois. I'm with Dustin Suckle tonight. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
Real good. Excited to see some Modern again here. Oh. Welcome back for anybody in chat that was with us the last couple weeks here. So tonight we're going to start off with, looks like we got Luke on Blue-Red Storm against Corey, and what's he on? Hardened Scales. Cool. So get to see Hardened Scales versus Storm. Pretty cool little matchup. What do you think about these decks?
They're both pretty fast. From my experience, they're both minimally interactive, especially game one. Mm-hmm. So it could also just be, especially game one, just who has the better hand.
Okay. So I did actually notice, did you get a chance to see any of the 8-0 decks that are at the GP right now?
I did not, actually.
So Caleb Shear, who's obviously probably the most popular Storm player in Modern, he's actually 8-0 right now.
Really?
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, that could definitely lead to some resurgence in Storm. I know over the last maybe year or so, it's been kind of dying out. It's still a really good deck. Nothing has changed from it, really. So, you know, it's all very skill-based. So I could definitely see it coming back.
Yeah, I saw that he was just like basically has an unsubstantiate main board, which I think that's pretty stock for him. But that's probably the only big switch up that we've seen with like newer cards, I guess, for the most part that they've had like main board. I saw them like kind of switch up that deck a little bit to add a little bit more diversity against humans, against Meddling Mage.
Yeah, that's definitely something they have to consider. I don't think that they have too many answers to it, and in a deck like Storm, being so combo heavy, there's not many you can put in at like one time, so you just need to make a concession on things that might not be as good but are a little more versatile in both your combo and interaction. Yeah,
for sure, I agree. Yeah, we've been seeing this Hardened Scales deck the last couple weeks here too, so like anybody that's in chat that's coming back, you guys have seen this probably the last 2 weeks now. Probably had, I think, 3 different games with it. How do you feel about this deck? It's been pretty cool. I had a couple different changes recently, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It came out like not even that long ago, this version of it. Which is weird because, you know, Hardened Scales, the main deck the main card that the deck revolves around, isn't like new or anything. It's from the Khans of Tarkir block, which was maybe 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So it's just you know, really cool to see old cards just randomly come up out of nowhere and just create or morph archetypes around it.
Yeah, I thought when that card first came out a couple years back, I was like, man, this card's so good. I saw a lot of people like in like casual EDH trying to break it and stuff like that. But like for it to finally find a spot in Modern is really cool. So we have Corey here starting off on the play. We have an Ancient Stirrings. So, again, we talked about this card a little bit before, too, but got a green sort of card draw style card, and now we have Luke here starting off with a Sleight of Hand. So he's doing the same thing, kind of right back at Corey here.
Yeah, like I said earlier, you know, they're both kind of like combo decks. More so Storm is actually a combo deck where you just like go off and kill somebody. Hardened Scales is kind of that way, where you're trying to set up. So that's exactly what these two decks are going to do in the first 2, maybe 3 turns, especially with no interaction. They're just free to go off and just set up as much as they want.
So okay, so does Corey's not going to have a lot of play then against like Luke? You think is Luke going to have a faster? If they both had like premium starting hands, is Storm just going to be a little bit quicker? You think than Hardened Scales?
It definitely can be. Being on the draw in this game might slow down a little bit. I think the biggest thing is that, like we're seeing right now, the turn 2 Brawl. If this goes unanswered this turn, he might just be dead on the next turn.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. Yeah. Brawl, just in case anybody in chat doesn't know what that is, Storm uses these 2 creatures that allow all their spells to cost 1 less colorless mana, so they're able to kind of combo off with different draw cards, and then what's the 4-drop card that they get to Gifts Ungiven,
Gifts Ungiven, correct. They get to search their library for 4 different cards with different names, reveal them to their opponent, and their opponent chooses to put 2 of them into their hand and 2 of them into their graveyard. This card, while normally doesn't seem too great because it lets your opponents choose, which normally isn't a good thing, the way the deck is built, it kind of doesn't matter. A little bit it does sometimes. You have to fool your opponent and like hope they don't. Like, you have to get certain cards. Most of your cards do most of the same thing, right? So you get 4 different cards, and like 3 of them are going to do the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So it's the last card, usually, which is Past in Flames, which For people who don't know, it allows you to give all your cards in your graveyard flashback, which is allow them to be cast for their mana cost again by exiling them from our graveyard. But the thing is that card itself has flashback, so whether it goes into your hand or your graveyard, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
so even if some of the cards go to the grave, even if the opponent chooses to put a few in the graveyard, they're still obviously a threat then as well, right?
Correct.
So here we got Corey now making a pretty good board presence here. I'm trying to. They're talking here about a little bit of interactions they got here. But these Steel Overseers on board here, these can tap and put 1/1 counters on to each of his other creatures, his artifact creatures. And in his deck, he just pretty much has mostly only artifact creatures anyways. So.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I think he might be trying to like see if he can deal damage to it, and then like in response deal more damage to it or something. I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of hard to hear them.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, what's up, Itty Bitty Kitty in chat? What's up, guys? Again in chat. If it's any of you guys' first week, feel free to say what's up. We're pretty casual here. Just this is our 3rd week streaming now. We're trying to just get you guys to ask any questions you have about Modern. So far, we've had a different expert analysis on here each week. This week we have Dustin, and so feel free if you guys have any questions about like wanting to get into Modern or a specific deck that you have questions about, always just feel free to ask us at any time. So it sounds like he's talking about casting Grape Shot, and then can Corey respond with triggers? It looks like he's trying.
Yeah, I think the question is that so he's Luke is trying to cast Grape Shot from his hand, and then he's seeing his opponent Corey is trying to tap it to put a counter on it, and save it, and then with the Storm triggers, which allows a Grape Shot to be copied, use the what is that called, Welding Jar, to give it regenerate.
Gotcha.
They were wondering how Regenerate interacted with Grape Shot, whether or not the damage would stay on the creature after.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we just got confirmation from Andrew, our tech guy, that said, that he confirmed that they were questioning the interaction with the regeneration from Welding Jar. Underneath, so if you guys see on board there, for any of you guys still, so in this chat also, or in our stream, by the way, we always are trying to mention every card here in case we have some viewers that are new to the game. So right there on board, he had a Welding Jar, and he was able to sacrifice that to regenerate one of his creatures, which basically kind of like allows it to not be destroyed for that turn.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what it would do is it would remove it. If it was in combat, it would remove it from combat, bring it. It doesn't technically leave the battlefield, but it brings it back to the battlefield tapped. Okay. So, and then if I remember my rules correctly, it will remove all the damage from it.
Cool. And then also, guys, on board there, he's got that Mox Opal. Again, that's a 0-drop artifact that if he has Metalcraft, which means that he has to have 3 artifacts on board, he can tap that for mana for free. And right now, one of his lands is an artifact land, so he does still have Metalcraft. So it's just a little bit extra mana ramp for him.
Yeah. So what happened last turn was that Corey had animated his other land, which was an Inkmoth Nexus, which turns into a 1/1 flying artifact creature with Infect. And then, so he wanted to do that because he wanted to get an extra counter on it from Steel Overseer. And Luke pretty expertly kind of baited that out of him, having the second Grape Shot in hand.
Yeah.
So after he had cast the first Grape Shot targeting the Steel Overseer, Corey had tried to activate and then activated his Inkmoth to give it an extra counter, thinking it was safe.
Yeah.
And then Luke played the land for turn and killed the Inkmoth. So Inkmoth, and in case people don't know, Infect is a mechanic where if your opponent, if any player gets 10 or more Infect counters on them, they just lose the game.
Yep.
So he was trying to like shortcut into doing only have to do 10 damage, and Luke made it stop that plan.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting matchup here, because I know, like, just from experience, like, playing against either one of these decks without having a whole lot of ways to interact is super rough, because you're just worried the whole time, like, basically if your opponent's going to be able to kind of go off that turn.
Yeah, both The difference in the two decks right here is Storm, when it goes off, it actually just kills you. So like if you just can't respond to it at instant speed, you're just dead. Whereas Hardened Scales Affinity, when it quote-unquote goes off, it just makes an entirely huge board presence. And most of the time, it's like you're basically dead because the way the creatures work is that like even if you kill them, that he's going to get value from it, and it's probably going to end up killing you in the end. But it doesn't actually kill you on the spot. So that's the difference.
Might be able to buy yourself a turn then.
Correct.
So here we go. You have Luke here casting that Gifts Ungiven we talked about. He's going to hunt up 4 cards here that he thinks that might help him in this situation, and then have Corey kind of decide what he wants to do with it. Anything you think in particular here that Luke would be wanting to do? You think he's going to just try and go off right now, or you think he's going to try and clean up the board state?
It's definitely possible. I'm not 100% sure on his exact list, but if I know, most lists only play 2 Grape Shots, and he's already used both of them, which is the main win condition of this deck. So he's probably getting some number of rituals, and I know most decks play a card called Noxious Revival. It's a green card technically, but you can also pay Phyrexian mana for it, which is 2 life or green. You put a card from your graveyard back on top of your library. So I might be hunting that up. I can't quite see what he had. I see a Gifts Ungiven.
Looks like he grabbed another Gifts Ungiven, a Metamorphose, a Ritual, and a Past in Flames. Corey's going to let him keep the Ritual and the Past in Flames. For anybody that doesn't know what the Rituals do,
I think that's 2 rituals, actually. I think it's the 2 different rituals.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so just go ahead and let everybody know what the rituals are.
Sure, there's 2 different ones in this deck. There's Desperate Ritual. They're both basically do the same thing. Oh, there we go. Desperate Ritual, 2 mana, instant, arcane, which is kind of important. And then it adds 3 mana to your mana pool, 3 red. With this one in particular, I splice on an arcane for 1 and a red as well. The trick is with Storm is that Brawl makes it cost 1 less, so you're actually netting 2 mana instead of 1. So you're paying 1 red to get 3 red back.
Cool.
And then you kind of combo off and through those cards, and then, like I said earlier, casting them again from your graveyard, you're able to net a lot of mana, and then keep going, and then eventually you're able to like cycle a couple cards through your deck while also generating Storm. Okay. And the way Storm works is a mechanic that says cards with Storm, when you cast them, they copy themselves for each other spell that either player has cast this turn. So the big name one is Grape Shot. It was cast earlier, 2 mana, deal 1 damage to something.
Wow, yeah, it looks like also just, not to cut you off here, but it does look like he actually is, there you go. So what he was able to look like he was going off. He had still 3 mana on board, and then started just using the mana he had floating to just continue to start casting rituals. And then like in his, and then obviously he had a Pass in Flames up, so he was able to just maybe cast Gifts Ungiven again, cast the Grape Shot again.
Right. So people who are experienced and have played against Storm, most of the time, if you have cast like 2 or 3 rituals this turn, you have like anywhere between like 2 and 4 or 5 mana, and you just cast Pass in Flames, most people will just scoop to it. Like, there's very little chance that you don't kill them that turn. It's possible, but especially having the 2 Grape Shots in the yard already, it's unlikely.
All right, yeah, I'm going to have you go check out these sideboards real quick. So for Corey here, we have Hardened Scales sideboard here. 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Shaper's Sanctuary, 2 Relic, Progenitus, 2 Karn Sky and Urzas, 2 Dismembers, 3 Dampening Spheres, and 4 Nature's Claims. What are you thinking here? All
right, so he's actually got a lot of cards that he could bring in here. Grafdigger's Cage and Relic of Progenitus both do the same thing, which is hate out Pass in Flames, which is really good. Most of the time, Storm can't go off without it. Sometimes they can, they just do it twice in a row, so they can just do it twice. And then the other big ones are Dismember, to get rid of their creatures that let them cast their spells easier, which is also really stops their combo. And then Dampening Sphere, which actually just makes them not be able to go off. Dampening Sphere makes them cost 1 extra mana for each spell they cast a turn, so it's like anti-Storm, basically.
All right, cool. And on Luke's side here, we got 2 Thing in the Ice, 1 Echoing Truth, 1 Lightning Bolt, 1 Wipe Away, 3 Piece of the Puzzle, 2 Blood Moon, 1 Empty the Warrens, 2 Abrades, 2 Ravenous Trap. What are you thinking?
All right. Out here, the Abrades are pretty easy. They just destroy an artifact. It's pretty good. It's kind of hard. You have to like really know what you want to destroy. There's a lot of pieces, oddly enough, pieces of the puzzle, right, that Hardened Scales is putting up. So it's really hard to pick a target, but it's just good all around. Blood Moon's pretty good. Most of their lands are pretty much all of their lands are non-basics, so you just kind of shut them off of that. They kind of don't matter most of the time, but like some of the utility ones matter.
Okay.
Another one is probably Echoing Truth. I can see it, maybe not. Just being able to bounce things and not get death triggers off of them is pretty important.
Okay, so now since Luke's going to be on the draw, the Blood Moon, do you think would still be possible, or do you think that that's like something that's going to be too slow for him?
It seems pretty slow. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he didn't bring him in, just because he has other things to bring in for them. And Storm is a deck that you can't bog down your combo too much, especially in a matchup like this where you just want to go off as fast as possible.
Cool. Yeah. So again, guys in chat, feel free to holler at us. Let us know you're in here watching, and we'll say hi back to you guys. If you guys have any questions, let us know also. Getting started here. Corey's going to be on the play. Just going to resolve their mulligans here. All right, so looks like Corey likes his hand, I guess. He's going to keep the 7, and looks like Luke's got some draw spells there as well. He's probably looking.
I think he only has 1 land right now, which is normally not great, but I'm pretty sure he has like 3 dig spells in his hand, which is really good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's always nice when you're in blue deck and you your first turn, you have some kind of way to manipulate the top of your library to look for some more lands.
Yeah, definitely. It really boosts your consistency, which is a reason that they do, that's the exact reason they play Sleight of Hand. Normally, it's a pretty suboptimal cantrip, but for people who don't know, pretty much all the good ones have been banned in Modern.
Yep. Yeah. So, does the average Storm deck run Serum Visions as well?
I think it's like personal choice to run Serum Visions or Sleight of Hand.
Okay.
Pretty much everyone that I've ever seen plays Sleight of Hand.
Is that just so they can interact at instant speed?
Yeah, the instant speed is really important, and then sometimes you want to just like dig deeper to be able to just like try to go off in like faster. Like I spend 1 mana and get 2 cards deep to get the card that I need to go off right now.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, so Corey here with the Hangerback Walker. Hangerback Walker here. So
he's also got a Graph Taker's Cage, which is really good. It means so Graph Taker's Cage says players can't play cards from their libraries and or graveyards. So basically, like I said, shuts off Past in Flames, and having that on turn 1 is just really key.
Yeah. So I still think that Corey getting that cage out, I guess, was important for him. At the same time, though, just not anything super fast from him. Kind of just a little bit, putting a little bit of a board presence on there. Maybe he's just hoping to kind of slow Luke down enough and start poking at him, huh?
Yeah. So that's a thing that Hardened Scales can do where Storm can't. Storm is pretty all in on their combo, and it's really hard for them to kind of have a secondary game plan. They only run 2 creatures. One of them is a 2/2, what you see right here, Goblin Electromancer, and the other one is Brawl, which is a 1/3.
Yep.
So they can't really just decide to go on this aggressive plan.
Yeah, and he's also not going to be able to really chump block or anything with these creatures either. He needs them to go off, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, I think playing the Electromancer, if I'm Luke, I'm pretty much thinking like, okay, he can't cast anything from the graveyard, so he either needs to get rid of that cage, or he's going to start maybe like trying to bulk up his hand for like 1 good solid go off.
Yeah, like that could be it. I could definitely see him trying to just say, hey, like I'm going to get you as low as possible, and he does have a couple answers to cage for sure. Echoing Truth, like I said, bounces any non-land permanent. So he could just like be saving up his hand for a really monster turn, and then just draw the Echoing Truth. Ooh, okay. So he has a Braid here, and he decides to target the Arcbound Ravager. So
yeah, that's always. I always feel like that's the best choice to target, because then it's going to force your opponent to have to kind of sacrifice everything that turn. So like if he wants to do his shenanigans with like manipulating his board, he's got to do it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It seems counterintuitive, because you're like, well, why would I target something that's just going to sack itself? But if you don't, then whatever you target, he's just going to sack once, and then get the counters and be able to just keep going on his game plan.
Yeah, for sure. Also, it doesn't look like he has mana up available this turn to activate his man land if he wanted to like put the counters on there also, which is kind of a cool choice.
Yeah, he decided to. He had it untapped, and he decided to give the extra counter to the Hangerback Walker. So I think that's his plan right now.
Okay, I see. Yeah, because he could have just tapped the man land to itself, right?
Correct. So I think he's not on that plan right now. Me personally, for anybody in chat who was here, I believe last week, I play Infect.
Yep.
So I'm high on Infect, So like me, I would have put the dudes on the Infect counter,
Yeah, of course.
But obviously I don't play Hardened scale, so maybe the correct answer is to just go in the slow grind of the Hangerback Walker, because like you said, he's not going to want to block it.
Right.
So by the time he's able to kill it, if he just keeps putting counters on it, he's going to kill it, and then he's just going to get a big board anyway.
Yeah, he's got him on like a 3 or 4 turn clock at this point. So. All right, so Walking Ballista coming in. Walking Ballista going to be able to, or actually he didn't cast that, right?
He got it off Agent's Ring, yeah.
So giving him an option to kind of get rid of this Goblin Electromancer if it doesn't get remanded or counter spelled here. So
right.
A lot of times I just like kind of getting rid of those guys as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. That's like probably his best game plan. Keeping him off this, like, because even if he doesn't go off on like the Storm plan, there's ways that he can just like generate a bunch of card advantage in one turn to let him go off on a Storm, right? Yeah. So if he doesn't have it in hand, it's way more likely that he's able to set it up if he does have an Electromancer out.
Okay. So I'm assuming he just didn't play that that Walking Ballista because he tapped the Mox Opal, so he didn't have enough to put it on 2, right?
Right. Yeah. Putting it on 1, while is like. It's not great, right? So when you can just wait a turn, he's not really under any pressure. From what it seems like, he doesn't seem like he's going to be able to go off this turn, but you never exactly know it's Storm.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like taking his chances. But I think like it's the smartest thing. Like putting it on 1 means that next turn he's going to have to spend all 4 of his mana to give it a second counter anyway.
And it's a possibility that maybe he might get hit by Grape Shop too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It just makes it more vulnerable, and like if it does get countered or something like that, it's just like not good for him.
All right, so what happened here? So he actually attacked with the Electromancer, huh?
He did. I think he's figuring that. He maybe didn't know about the land, or maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he just wants to get it off the battlefield. He's like, I can beat this this Ballista, or not Ballista, sorry, but the Hangerback Walker, but I can't beat the flying guy,
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, I'm going to have to, try to bait him into blocking, because it doesn't kill his Electromancer. It gives him a -1/-1 counter, but the difference between your Electromancer being a 2/2 and a 1/1 is basically nothing.
Yeah, and I think also, like, maybe he's just thinking that, like, next turn it's going to die to a Walking Ballista anyways, right?
Yeah, it's definitely possible, and it also does take him off of a land. So if he doesn't have another land, he can't put Ballista on 2 and then shoot it and survive. So it's just a trade-off. Ooh, there it is, Hardened Scales. That's really big.
So now, also really quick, just to get back to that, is there a chance also that he was attacking, you think, to put him on 16, and maybe he thought that he can combo for 16? Is that a possibility or no?
It's definitely possible. It seems pretty unlikely,
Gotcha.
but...
Yeah, so Corey here casting Walking Ballista, looking to try and take this Electromancer out right now. So going to see a response from Luke here. Probably a remand or something, right?
No, I think he's digging for it.
Okay. Casting Metamorphose, just basically going to be able to cantrip here and color fix himself. Yeah, just...
oh, there it is.
So for anybody, also, again, some of this stuff I'm going to say is for any newer players, but a lot of Luke's cards cantrip, and just cantrip is just basically a magic word that just basically means that he gets to draw a card. It's like an additional portion of the card. Like, it'll have an effect, and then he also gets to draw a card.
Right.
And could you tell everybody why that's important for his deck?
Sure, yeah. For this deck, you want to keep your hand really full because of the Storm counter, right? So, like I said earlier, when you go off, Storm counts every spell you've cast. So if you're trying to, like, do your minimal interaction, do your digging and stuff like that, you don't want to be doing that and then not have any cards in hand, right? Because then you're trying to storm off and you only have 3 spells on the stack, which is never good. So like you're forced to play cards that might not be quite as powerful as normal, but they let you draw cards and keep your hand full.
Cool. All right, so yeah, he did remand that then, and then he went to his turn. Cast, or actually, then on the end of Corey's turn, he cast a Gifts Ungiven. So it looks like Luke's going to try and go off probably this turn, maybe?
Yeah, it seems like it. I'm pretty sure if I saw his hand right, he has like 4 or 5 rituals in hand right now, which is really, really good.
I thought I saw an Abrade in there. It's hard for us to see because chat is kind of our chat box is kind of covering it up a little bit, but we'll see here. Maybe he doesn't care about getting rid of that cage.
Yeah, like he does have the Past in Flames in the graveyard. So if somehow, oh yeah, the Braid. Okay,
yeah,
here we
here's
go,
the Braid, yes.
Yep, without Arcbound Ravager, and honestly, it doesn't matter now at this point. As long as it's off the table this turn, he can probably just win. And this is the Power Storm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. For a while there, people always were calling Storm being a little bit too powerful, but then it just after Modern just kind of evened out and the meta got so wide, it's just been something that's like still always a top tier deck, but it's manageable. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Being that it's a pretty skill intensive deck, like as you saw, Luke had a lot of decisions to make this game. It didn't just like. He didn't just draw cards and then just puke them out on the table and he won.
Yeah.
You know, he had to like look at the top 2 cards, decide which one's better, draw it, and then do that like 4 or 5 times and like decide to attack and not attack. So it's a very skill-intensive deck, and it is good. But the problem is that over the last maybe year or so, there's been like 2 or 3 key cards printed into the Modern format that just like shut it down. And while it was popular, those cards were popular on the sideboard.
Yeah, we got Corey here conceding. Yeah, I mean, Dampening Sphere, obviously, it seems like obviously Wizards has posted printed a bunch of cards that are kind of like hating on Storm and Tron over the last 2 years now, or last year and a half.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
But Dampening Sphere in particular is obviously just like directly hating against both of those.
Yeah, exactly, both of them. Me personally, I don't think that they directly print cards, especially for Modern, that shut down things. I think they do for Standard sometimes. If something's too powerful, they might slip in a card to like try to even it out. But for Modern, I don't think they usually do. There's some that do, like Dampening Sphere is actually like the perfect example. There wasn't really anything in that set that would, especially for the make anything that makes more than 1 mana, make it only 1 mana instead.
Yeah.
So like it seems kind of weird, like odd in that set. You're like, why would you print this in a set? And then everyone immediately was like, well, they just want to nerf Tron.
Yeah.
And that could be it. It's not like it was always really good, and even now, like not a lot of people play Dampening Sphere. There's a lot of answers to Tron. You know, there's a lot of ways to do it. None of them are like perfect, which is why Tron still exists.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just another thing that came out, and it does like the good thing about it is that it does hate on other decks, specifically Storm, but there's other decks like technically Infect, right? The one deck that I play, having to pay more makes me not have to go off on 1 turn.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to do it over like 2 or 3 turns, which gives my opponent a lot more time. But it is a symmetrical card, right? So it counts to you too. So
yeah, exactly.
there are decks that can't play it as an answer, right? So you can't be a Tron deck trying to hit out other Tron decks with Dampening Sphere.
Yeah. I think, I mean, if we can't get a backup matchup here in time, we'll try and get Luke over here, and then you could just talk to him and give him a couple questions on how he feels about Storm overall. Because I'm kind of curious about what his take is about like when he's facing Dampening Sphere, like what his kind of like what his strategy is then, or like how he feels if it's like actually strong against him or not as well. So yeah, our tech people are going to try and look for maybe a backup match. I'm sure right now. But which Mox Opal art do you guys like more, the OG or the Masterpiece? I like the OG really.
I think they're both really good. I like the Masterpiece. I think most of the what is it? The Kaladesh Inventions.
Yeah.
Which is that set that came up from. I think all of those were really good.
I'm gonna have Dustin here do a quick interview with Luke, so Luke could try and explain just like what he likes about Storm, and then you could ask him about like how he deals with hate cards and stuff too.
Yep.
So. Dude, these are a little bit sweaty. I'm sorry. Because I'm like hot. Sorry.
Yeah, I was hot in the room too, so I get it.
Also, if he doesn't ask you, talk to them about what you do when hate cards come in.
Okay.
All right, here we go. We got the winner now. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it was really good. So you went 2-0 against Hardened Scales. All right, so first off, how do you feel about the matchup?
This is the first time I've ever played Storm. I don't really know much about the deck. I just kind of know the basic lines of play from watching people play.
All right, well, you seemed pretty good at it from what we saw, especially game 2. It seemed like you had a lot of decisions. You started off with the one-lander, I believe. So you had the 2 sleight of hands, which let you look, and I'm assuming at first you were just looking for lands, right?
Actually, on like my first sleight of hand, it was a Ritual and a Scalding Tarn. and I had a real hard time deciding whether Ritual Discarding Turn was the right answer because I figured I had another land and another sleight of hand in order to see another land drop, and he didn't like turn 1 Hardened Scales or turn 1 play 2 1-drops with the Mox Opal, so I wasn't really under any pressure. So I figured that maybe the Ritual was the right play, but I figured I'd rather get Electromancer down on 2 and kind of take like a control standpoint because of the cards I had in my hand, like the 2 of Braids and the Wipe Away and such.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So we were talking about hate cards before you came up. So I know you said you're new, but how do you feel about cards such as Damping Sphere?
I think that what makes Storm so relevant in the meta always is that they're able to answer it with Wipe Away, Echoing Truth, a Braid on Damping Sphere specifically, and that helps in other matchups with like humans and stuff. So I think that Storm's always going to have an answer. And it's
it seems like their answers are pretty universal.
Yeah.
So, you know, like the best thing against Storm is like a permanent, and then you're just like, okay, well, I'm going to bounce it and go off.
Exactly. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think like I said, like we were talking about, Storm's always like been in the meta. It's always been pretty close to the top. Over the last like year or so, it's kind of been waning, but I see it coming back a lot.
I don't know. Storm is one of those decks that in metas where it's bad, the people who are very good at it continue to play it because they're able to either adapt their sideboards, because some people play stuff like Thing in the Ice to the sideboard, and I've been watching people play streams where they're testing like Ancestral Visions to fight like the Black-Green X decks and stuff like that.
Okay,
so Storm players are creative. They always figure out their way to...
Yeah, it is a very skill-intensive deck to pilot.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a very high ceiling where, like you said, if you're really, really good at it, it's a deck that can adapt to anything.
Yeah.
So any other general comments on the deck itself?
No, just a pretty generic...
Did you like it?
It's okay. I was playing fair decks more, but, you know.
Yeah, you're a fair deck kind of guy. I know you're usually on, like, Green, White, Value Town, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to see... Hey, Jay. Do we have another match or anything like that? All right. Yeah. Oops, I got you.